Hey guys, today's story is going to be about a player that basically became a side character. Hey there folks, this is my first time ever posting here, so excuse any oddities or something of that nature. I recently left a friend of mine's game, and I was wondering if I over-exaggerated, or was a bit of a jerk in any way, and wanted a bit of outside judgment. So let me lay down the context. The setting was a homebrew world that the DM had created, and I was honestly pretty interested, and hadn't played D&D for some time. Seeing this, I accepted and created my character, which was a Warforged druid. For most of the game, we only had one other player. The other guy originally played an Arakakra bard, until he died in Session 2, and then for the rest of the time, he played a paladin. The setting was good, and I liked the other PC and the NPCs in our party. Things were generally fine for a bit. That is, however, until I started to notice a pattern. You see, I think I began to realize, or feel like I was a side character in this campaign. For most of these sessions, I did try to talk to and interact with NPCs. However, I was talked over most of the time by the other player, to the point where after a certain time, I just didn't try to speak, because I knew I wouldn't be able to get a word in edgewise. Secondly, whenever I did have time for my character to do something on his own, or at least have a little bit of a spotlight, it only lasted for a few minutes, and really didn't do much of consequence before the narrative shifted back to the paladin again. This culminated in 3 to 4 sessions that seemed solely focused on the paladin, in which he met his god, replaced his arm with an axe, had a climatic duel with a pirate lord on top of an airship, and got an entirely new sword and gear, while, for the most part, I just sat back and kind of watched. And for the record, I'm fine with points in the story being more focused on a specific character, and at the time, I didn't think much on it, especially when I heard that my character would be the next one to be focused on. And so, over the next 3 to 4 sessions, I continued playing and waiting for that focus, and for the record, I did gain something in the way of a new god, which was nice, but even then, in all these sessions, I was continuing to be talked over whenever I tried to interact with people, even though I had made my complaints clear to the DM and tried to speak more. But even over these sessions, the narrative continued to switch to the paladin again and again. For example, we went to a town to collect some information, and the paladin would go off to get some supplies, while I went to the local tavern to get some information. I got to talk for about 10 minutes or so when the paladin burst in, and the narrative focused on him again, like I wasn't even there, and ended up in a bar fight where I didn't get to do anything besides a single spell, while the paladin did the rest. Eventually, I reached my breaking point. We were headed to another town to get into contact with someone who would give us transportation to a place that we needed to go. However, there was a magical barrier apparently in the way that required us to get the blessing of a few local leaders to access. So we traveled around town and tried to find the elders. We met with one of the elders in a temple that used to belong to the religion of my paladin, and so he was mad about that. And he grew even more angry when I finally got to take the lead for once, and it was revealed that my character had a god to the other players. And around this point we had just gotten a third guy. So the entire experience was then warped from the perspective of the paladin's anger, and instead of being able to explore the area, we had to stop him from desecrating a church, essentially. After that, we went to a coliseum to find the second elder, and the third player and I searched around while the paladin went to sign up for the tournament. We searched everywhere for a few minutes, and we found a guy that we thought was the elder, but just ended up being a pipe worker because he was a minotaur, and we didn't understand him at first. With the misunderstanding clear, we walked back to the main area to find that the paladin had entered the fight, with us not being allowed to join it. And so, the wizard and I were sent to the stands, and for the next 40 minutes to an hour, the paladin fought with a giant ape, and it was just him and the DM going back and forth. During this time, I managed to walk to a nearby convenience store twice, and come back without anyone noticing I was gone. Eventually, the paladin killed the ape, and he got all the prizes that came with it, and the respect from the elder. At this point, I figured that I didn't have much use in the party, and wanted to leave. I told my DM about the reasons why I left, and he said that it was ultimately my fault because I didn't know how to make an optimized character sheet, and therefore couldn't succeed in roles. And he suggested that I actually read the player's handbook, and sent me a link to it online. After that, I stopped talking, and it's been a few days since. So folks, if you don't mind, did I overreact in this situation? If I did, I'd really like to know and have ways to better improve in the future. Thank you all for listening, and have a great day. Well, firstly, no, you didn't really do anything wrong. The only thing you did do wrong is finding a crappy player and DM to be playing D&D with. But wiseassery aside, the DM is a bit of a butt munch, barely paying attention to you as a player and then rarely giving you a spotlight, and then saying that you're not optimized when whether or not you are having a min-max character doesn't really matter if you aren't having the ability to really use your character in any case. Again, if this DM wanted a one-on-one session with one particular player, then he should have just had a campaign revolving around this one player and doing it privately with him, rather than just having another player or two basically act as NPCs. Having quests or what have you revolve around a single character so that it can flesh out their character backstory or what have you a little bit more, that's fine. But this was very obviously not that. It was very obviously not just the player having main characteritis, but also DM favoritism. But in any case, guys, that's the end of the story. Hopefully you enjoyed, and, as always, have a good one.